I grew up with great parents who warned me regularly about the dangers of alcohol and drugs. And I avoided drinking until college, where I was one of the few people on campus I knew who stayed sober during my freshman year. But by sophomore year, that all changed. What started as casual drinking spiraled into binge drinking 3 or 4, sometimes 5 nights a week. And I was unsuccessful as I tried to cut back on how much I was drinking, and destructive things started happening in my life. After one night in which I was dead set on limiting myself to 2 drinks, I ended up waking up in a detox facility, not knowing where I was or how I got there. And then a counselor met me with some scary news. He said I wouldn't be going home, I was going to be arrested, but I had no idea what I had done the night before. But thanks to God, that moment marked a turning point in my life. With counseling, a fresh start in a different area, and giving my life to Jesus, I was able to stop drinking at that point. My story and many others, I think, show 2 urgent truths. Addiction often starts slowly and worsens over time, and many struggle repeatedly to break free without success. Anyone can fall into the prison of addiction. I was blessed to find help before things escalated much worse than they were, but countless others are trapped and desperately seeking a way out. That's why I'm so glad that you joined us for today's show, because we're going to learn about one program that God is using in powerful ways to bring wholeness to those imprisoned in the seemingly hopeless cycle of addiction. You're watching One Day Closer, where we're learning together how to use our one day closer to eternity to bring hope and purpose to many. Let's go meet our guest for today. We're here today in studio with Shawn Ryan from Teen Challenge. Shawn, thanks so much for being with us today to talk about this really important topic.
Thanks for having me, Brennan.
Absolutely. So just to start, can you just share with us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Well, I'm married. I have 5 children.
Yeah.
A couple boys in their mid to late 20s, and then some younger teenage kids. I have one daughter. She's my 16-year-old. She's daddy's princess. And I tell all people, you only want one daughter. It's funny because with addiction, I didn't really start getting into addiction probably, I guess, towards when you were, because seemed like, or that story was in kind of like the college age, college years. So a lot of people I know, they started at a very young age. I didn't start till I got out of high school. I went to a good Christian school, a couple of them, from like 8th grade to my graduating year. My mom was remarried a few times, so we did a little moving around, and I had a few different male figures in my life. One thing I could say, and we've noticed in addiction, that a male figure is very important. Having a father figure in the lives of young men is very important, because the ones that seem to fall into addiction seem to not have that. So, I was didn't really get in any trouble or anything until I got out of high school. No one ever really taught me about addiction, didn't explain addiction to me. Met a girl. She had a circle of friends that I was not used to being around. Started playing with marijuana and then your party drugs. And then that led into harder things to the point where I was committing crimes in and out of jail. Just really struggling to try to figure out what I was going to do with my life, where I was going to go, how I was going to get sober. Nothing. There's really pretty much like a hopeless time in my life there.
Wow. And now what's your role at Teen Challenge?
So Teen Challenge, I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Development. Now that's this week. That could change, in ministry. The hats change a lot, so we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah. And what is Teen Challenge?
Teen Challenge is a faith-based drug and alcohol program. We've been around for 60 years.
Wow.
It started with David Wilkerson. I don't know if you know the David Wilkerson story.
Crossing the Switchblade.
Yeah, Crossing the Switchblade. Very great book. And the Lord laid it on his heart to open up a place where people could get the help that they needed. I don't know if it really started out for people with addiction, but it kind of morphed into that. And now we're a full-blown place where people can find recovery and Jesus.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how do you end up where you were in addiction to now serving where you are in this ministry?
I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll try to put that as compact as I can. I think so. I had a few children out of wedlock. My first son is Tyler, he's 26. That was with the girl that I first met that I was explaining I got into addiction with. Then my next son was Cameron, with Michelle, who I'm actually married to now. Then I got to the point where I had these 2 kids. I'm kind of living all over the place, using drugs, drinking, partying, in and out of jail. And then one time when I was in jail, someone had mentioned about this program called Teen Challenge. I probably was in my early 30s when I heard about this. And I was like, I don't know anything about it. I understood who the Lord was. I went to Christian school. I don't know if I was a Christian, but I read the Bible or what have you. And they told me about Teen Challenge. And they're like, listen, you could do that or you can go to jail.
Okay.
I mean, most people generally are going to pick, well, I don't want to go to jail, so let's try this Teen Challenge thing. I remember they transported me from New Jersey, the jail I was in shackles and handcuffs, to, at that time, it was in Germantown, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It was the men's center. They called it an induction center. It was about 4 months long. You had to go there, and so I got transported there and did my 4 months. Then I got transferred to the mountain they call God's Mountain. That's in Rearsburg. And I did another 8 months there. Did really well. Enjoyed it, learned about the Lord, felt that that's where I probably got saved and really understood who God was in my life and who He was and who I was. And then I got hired on. At Teen Challenge, one of the things we like to do is we try to get people to stay after they're done graduating. We try to train them, work with them, and hopefully they become staff members because, the people who understand addiction and have lived through it generally become the best, people to work with people who are in addiction.
Yeah, and it helps, at least from my understanding, it helps a lot of the barriers that those with addiction struggle with, going back to the same environment,
yes,
and then falling back into it again.
Correct.
Or even just finding a job if you've committed crimes, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure when you finish recovery. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You don't have a lot of money. You've burnt so many bridges. This gives you a fresh start with a support group that you've already established. You're already working with us. You have your peers there. You have your staff there. Your counselors there. Everybody supporting you. You might as well stay longer and continue on that positive trend and hopefully get a job and work in the field.
That's fantastic. Well, it's great. We're going to take a quick break and come back and dive more into that.
Sounds great.
Stick with us. We'll be right back to dive more into this great story.
Watch Lighthouse TV wherever you go. Available on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. Search Lighthouse TV online on your streaming device or go to our website, lighthousetv.org, for more information.
Welcome back to One Day Closer. We're here talking with Shawn Ryan from Teen Challenge about how God's bringing hope to the hopeless. So Shawn, we were just talking about your story and how you came into addiction in college, met a girl. I feel like that can be a difficult part of everybody's story.
Yeah.
Right? And then
but we love God's creation of women, so we're not, we're not blaming them.
Exactly. We make our own choices, right?
That's right.
And then you were telling your story through Teen Challenge. You were exposed to Teen Challenge, either go to jail or go to Teen Challenge.
Yeah.
And the program really helped, and you got a position afterwards, which is amazing. But then you were still wrestling with addiction. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so just to clarify, I wasn't in college when it happened, but it was about college time. College age, right. So I graduated, stayed there for a while. Now at this point, Michelle, the mother of my second son, we're together, we're married, right? So we've gotten married. She's doing okay, she's living at home, she's not using. I'm at Teen Challenge. And I get hired, and we provide housing for staff. So they allowed me to move Michelle up with my son, and then my other son, Tyler, he came too. He was living with my mother at the time. So now I have both my sons, me and my wife.
That's great.
We're at Teen Challenge. Things are going well. But the challenge for me was I didn't apply myself to God 100%. I applied myself to the work, and that can happen in ministry. You can get really wrapped up in the work, but you're not wrapped up in who you're actually working for. So I got caught up in that, and then some pride slipped in, and I relapsed. And I went on a pretty bad relapse, but Teen Challenge was gracious to send me away to try to get some help at one of our other locations while they took care of my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
So let them stay in the house. I went away for a little bit, came back. They gave me another job. It wasn't the same job because the job I had originally, I was kind of doing business development like I am doing now, working to try to help expand what we're doing and build relationships in the community. So I came back and then I relapsed again. And I got to the point where, I was, doing things that just shouldn't have been done. I was stealing from Teen Challenge and some other stuff like that, lying to them all the time. So they said we had to leave. So we left. At this point, my wife's using, I'm using, because my wife has a history of addiction also, so she's back to using again. We're living on almost on the streets, and I forgot to mention, this is pretty important. While at Teen Challenge, while we're working there, I was there about 3 years, and we had 3 more children.
Oh yeah.
So I have 5. There's where the other 3 came from. So we're all together. We're kind of just trying to figure out how to navigate life. And at one point, my kids went back to my mom and my mother-in-law, and my wife decided to move back with the mother-in-law, and she had basically all my kids kind of like in one house.
Yeah.
And I'm on the streets by myself out in Berks County.
Wow, wow. And then you got into some more trouble.
Yeah.
Right, ended up arrested, and you're able to get into a second program.
Yes.
A different type of program. What was that?
Correct. So I moved back to New Jersey, tried to do recovery on my own, didn't really work that well. So it was me, my wife, and my kids, and we had like a house we were renting or what have you. And I got in more trouble, relapsed, and then the police kind of came and arrested me because I had warrants. Still had open warrants in Pennsylvania from the things that I didn't finish, and then I had new ones in New Jersey. And then I was offered what's called the drug court program in New Jersey. Drug court program is in lieu of jail, and it's a very clinical program. It's not a faith-based program. So you attend groups, and you have a counselor, and you work on people's places and things and triggers, and you start learning about addiction and how it affects your brain. And actually, it was a really good program for me. I went through it. I didn't get in any trouble. I learned a lot about addiction and how it affects the way I think and the things that I do. But at the same time, I knew that I still needed my relationship with the Lord. So I had some men who kind of took me under their wing. One guy, his name was Mike. He kind of really stepped in and became like my mentor, gave me a job, gave me a place to stay while I was kind of going through all this, and helped me get my wife into treatment so that while I was in drug court, she was in treatment so that we were getting the help that we needed. So I had basically people pouring into me in my faith and helping me establish that and build it, and then I had counselors and other people, case managers, and all these people helping me figure out my addiction. And I think the marriage of those two have been very impactful in my life. I haven't done anything since 2013.
Praise God.
So it's been 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And some of the ways that Teen Challenge has grown, it sounds like you've kind of meshed those two things now in Teen Challenge. So you have the medical detox and these kind of things.
And we have some clinical programs too. Yeah. When I was visiting Teen Challenge, one of the guys who used to work for me at Teen Challenge is now the CEO of Teen Challenge. He's the only graduate of Teen Challenge that ever actually became the CEO.
Wow.
His name's Chris McFadden, great friend of mine, mentor of mine. And we were just visiting at Teen Challenge in one of their events. And I heard him talking about some of the things that he was going to get into. And it really resonated with me because, having that clinical aspect of learning about addiction and how it affects your brain and the things, these tools that you can use to kind of keep from relapsing, but also still keeping the core of who you are with that faith component, because we know without the Lord, nothing can get done, really intrigued me. And he was kind of speaking to me. He was like, hey, did you ever think about coming back and working here? And I was like, do you remember what I did? He goes, I remember. But he's like, I see now this is probably 2017. He's like, I see, now it's been 5 years. I see the Lord's done a really good work in you. Wow. And, you did good work when you were here, if you ever want to consider it. So I prayed on it. I talked to my wife about it a little bit, but we were stable. We had a house. My kids were in Christian school. My wife was working at the Christian school. We had a church group, a home church. We were fine. Yeah. And I was like, look, I don't know if I really want to give all this up and start all over again.
That stability,
But we prayed about it, and then I met Chris again the following year, and he said the same thing. Did you ever think about coming back? And I was like, I don't know, Chris. And then me and my wife kept praying, and we just felt that that's where the Lord wanted us to go. So we came back, and I've been back since 2019, and now Teen Challenge, it's totally different than when I went. We have a full service medical detox. So, and we do a lot of work in Kensington. We were talking about that earlier. And when you go down there and you're meeting those people where they're at on the street, to not be able to provide medical services to them with all the wounds that they have and all the new types of drugs that are out there that are affecting them, and they're dying in their withdrawals now. To be able to provide a place for them to go that's still faith-based, that's part of Teen Challenge and the whole model that we do, we can bring them in, provide those services, love on them the way Jesus would love on them, give them the medications and the things they need to stabilize them. And then we have our 30-day clinical program, because what happens is, maybe 15 years ago, someone saying, hey, do you want to go to a year-long program? That was kind of like understood. Nowadays, with our fast-paced society, people don't want to commit to that. So we kind of broke it up into smaller segments. Hey, here's 30 days. Let's get you through that. We'll give you a counselor. We'll get you groups, all the things that I went to when I went through drug court. And then if they want to stay longer, we got a 90-day program for you. So we kind of just funnel it in kind of slyly, hey, how about 30? How about 90? But they still get all the faith-based programming that we provide at Teen Challenge. So we've always provided at Teen Challenge. So.
Kingdom of God is like a mustard seed, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They start small, and then it grows, and they start to get a taste of that and continue with it. So that's great. So you have the original 30-day, you said?
Well, we have the
detox.
We have a 5 to 7. Then we have your 30-day.
Yep.
Then we have a 90-day.
Okay.
And then we have, if you want to stay and complete the whole year, you can.
Yes.
But at each one of those spots, if you want to leave, we can't handcuff you to the bed.
Right.
I wish I could to some of the people. But we'll try to help you. Where are you going to go? What's your next step? Do you have a good home plan? We want to make sure that people are taking what they've gotten with us for that little tiny bit or that longer amount of time, and they're going to be able to apply it somewhere else.
Wow. Yeah. And then when they complete the program, they have an opportunity to become an intern.
Correct.
Right? And that's 6 months?
Yeah, it's a 6-month internship, so they'll do a whole year. And then while they're in the program, and then once they graduate, they can apply to be an intern. If they're accepted, they get kind of like, they get to move out to different type of housing where they get some more freedom.
Yes.
They get to go out to the store whenever they want, or go out with their friends and play softball, whatever they want to do. But they work side by side with our staff to learn about what we do on a daily basis, whether that be with floor technicians, behavioral health technicians, or maybe in the admissions department, wherever they feel they're led, where their skill set could benefit. And after 6 months, if they still want to do it and they're doing well, we generally offer them a job and we hire them, and then we provide them some type of staff housing in the interim for a few years to get them on their feet.
Yes.
They start saving money. A lot of them wind up getting married and have children. I mean, there's a lot of stories at Teen Challenge that I could tell you about, like stuff like that.
That's incredible. And it's kind of the desire, right, to get as many of these guys on staff, on staff through it, right? Because that's where they can really get that stability, and they're giving back.
Yeah, and they're giving back. And they just, you're not going to pull the wool over a guy who's lived through addiction for 15 years.
Yes.
So they seem to be able to handle the clients a little bit better. They understand when they're trying to manipulate the situation or when they're trying to, actually being honest.
Yes.
And they can relate. And it seems, for me anyway, and probably for you, if there's someone who's actually been in your shoes, walked your walk, talked your talk, and has now gotten from here to here, you're going to listen to what they have to say. Because you want that. You want to, ultimately, we didn't want to be an addict or be stuck in addiction for the rest of our life. We just didn't know how to get from here to that point. So,
exactly.
Yeah, they provide that way.
And I think you said about 50% of your staff right now have been through the program?
Yeah, roughly about 50% of the people that work for us. It could be a little bit more. I'd have to do an actual deep dive, but we have a lot of people that either went through our program or, because I have some people who work in the Kensington area, they didn't go through our program, but they went through another program, they love the Lord, they understand what addiction's like, so we try to hire many of those as we can.
Yeah. And how does someone, so if someone's watching the show and it's them or their loved ones struggling with addiction, how do they get connected with Teen Challenge? Can anybody show up? How does that work?
Yeah, at our drop-in centers, you can just walk in. If you're not near one of our drop-in centers, you'd want to call our phone number, our admissions line. I can give you that. It's 844-888-8085. Right. They can call. One of our admissions persons will talk to them and find out where they're at. See, not everybody needs detox.
Yes.
Not everybody needs the 30-day program. They might be able to skip all that because they have some sobriety, or they just relapse and they don't want to, go back. So we can put them in that, so we try to figure out where the best placement is for them. Yeah. And then we try to make sure that they get in and they have everything that they need to be successful.
That's great. And then you have these Naaman centers for more outpatient for
so
people who've been through?
So Naaman, we have outpatient centers. So what happens is there's twofold reason for them. One, somebody is leaving our program. They don't want to intern, right? They already have a job they can go back to. They're moving back to Lancaster, let's say. We have our outpatient center in Lancaster, so we can connect them with a counselor and resources to make sure that they're continuing in this journey, at least for a little while, until, they can probably say, okay, the counselor can say, listen, you've done good. It's been another 6 months, you've been out, you haven't used your life, you're stable. I don't think you need any more counseling now. But we want to make sure that there's a connection there. Or someone who has been sober for 20 years. Yes. And they just took a drink and they're like, I don't want to go back to this route. Well, they don't need to go away for 30 or 90 days, right? But they might need somebody, a therapist or somebody in their life. They're trying to just make sure that they don't make that mistake again. Right. So we have them available in multiple counties. We have 13 locations.
That's awesome.
In the state of Pennsylvania for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And just as we close, Shawn, what would you say the heart of Teen Challenge is?
Well, the heart of Teen Challenge is we want people to come to know Jesus, right? That's the most important thing. That's the foundation, the rock that you need to build your life on. The thing that we know is we understand is that that's done with many different methods, right? Yeah. So there's one God and we believe in him and we know he is who he is, but a lot of times there's different ways to get to people to get them to get to that point. Yeah. So we're open to using different tools and technologies and different methods of outreach to make sure that we can connect with that person and get them hopefully in our program and then get them to meet Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much, Shawn. This is awesome. Thanks for your time.
It's been great.
And for the work you're doing to bring wholeness to the hopeless.
We're trying, man.
Love it.
Amen.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back to talk about how we can apply these things to our lives.
Watch Lighthouse TV wherever you go. Available on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. Search Lighthouse TV online on your streaming device or go to our website, lighthousetv.org, for more information.
One of the most inspiring aspects of Jesus in the Gospels, especially in the Gospel of Luke, is his profound connection with the broken and the marginalized. In Luke 7, Jesus reveals that religious leaders have labeled him a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. These groups were considered among the lowest in that society, and Jesus' deep love for these groups of people highlights his deep compassion for and identification with society's outcasts. Jesus explains in Luke 5 that the reason he came to earth was to extend mercy to those trapped in sin and ready to recognize their need for him. Brothers and sisters, we're facing staggering numbers of addiction today. One study in 2023 found that approximately 48.5 million Americans battled substance abuse in the past year. Overcoming addiction is complex and challenging, but Jesus' example reminds us of the power of compassion and the hope that healing is possible for everyone. What could happen if we were immersed so deeply in the compassion and hope of Jesus in our lives that it saturated the lives of those suffering around us? What could happen in our families, churches, and communities if we joined God's work of bringing wholeness to the hopeless among us? Here's some steps that you can take today to begin doing this tomorrow in your life. First, don't give up. If you're the one trapped in addiction, keep fighting with all that you have. Jesus will never give up on you, and Jesus is able to rescue you. Don't give up and get the help that you need as many times as you need it until you're freed from the prison of addiction. If you have a loved one who is imprisoned in addiction, keep fighting for them. Find or form a Christian community of others who are going through similar struggles and pray, learn, grow, and persevere together as you seek to encourage and love those in your life who are struggling. Second, pray about how you can utilize Teen Challenge and other recovery ministries like Celebrate Recovery for yourself or those in your church or community who struggle with addiction. Thank you so much for joining us for One Day Closer, where we're learning together how to use our one day closer to eternity to bring Jesus-infused hope and purpose to many.